Republicans gain full control of Congress, giving President-elect Trump another victory. This as Trump announces more picks for his administration after returning to Washington for the first time since winning the 2024 election.
The selection of Matt Gaetz for Attorney General, Marco Rubio as Secretary of State, Tulsi Gabbard as the Director of National Intelligence.
Just a very nice gathering. Isn't it nice to win? It's nice to win.
We are excited to reclaim the majority and to get to work with our colleagues in the House to enact President Trump's agenda.
President Biden met with President-elect Trump for approximately 2 hours in the Oval Office.
Politics is tough, and it's, in many cases, not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today.
The inflation numbers don't move in a straight line. They go up, they go down all around in a given month, but the trend lines are still moving to lower inflation.
I want to congratulate my dear friend, Governor Mike Huckabee. I think he will be a great ambassador to Israel.
Right now, there are 900 trucks that are inside of Gaza, Kerem Shalom, but backed up. They can't be distributed because of this looting and because of the criminality.
Hello, thank you for joining us. We begin our report with President-elect Donald Trump selecting 2 loyal allies for key roles in his administration. Trump has chosen Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz for Attorney General and former Hawaii Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard for Director of National Intelligence. Trump's cabinet is quickly taking shape, with the president-elect elevating some of his most vocal supporters on Capitol Hill and cable TV. Earlier, Trump met with his soon-to-be predecessor in the Oval Office. President Biden welcomed him back to the White House, where they spoke privately for about 2 hours with their respective chiefs of staff. The 2 men exchanged a few quick words in front of the White House press corps.
Mr. President-elect and former President,
thank you.
Donald, congratulations.
Thank you.
And looking forward to having like we said, a smooth transition.
Politics is tough, and it's, in many cases, not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate very much a transition that's so smooth. It'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Jim.
The meeting of the incoming and outgoing presidents is a tradition to facilitate the peaceful transition of power. It did not happen in 2020 as Trump was contesting the results of that election. Meanwhile, we now know Trump will have an easier time moving his agenda through Congress. CBS News projects Republicans will retain control of the House. The party also flipped the Senate in last week's election. Let's bring in CBS News Chief Washington correspondent Major Garrett. Major, thanks for being here. I want to ask you about some of the latest cabinet picks by Trump. But first, on the White House, how would you characterize that interaction between Trump and Biden? I doubt either of them have the other on their holiday card list.
Probably not, but it is power present meeting power future. At the center of that interaction, America's ongoing interests, domestically and internationally. It's an important thing for presidents to do with presidents-elect. President Biden extended this courtesy, which is not just courtesy, it's not just ritual, it's about signaling to the world continuity in American governments. President Obama extended that to President-elect Trump. The one who did not was President Trump. Did not extend this courtesy, did not recognize this ritual, did not convey this continuity of American governance when he was in office in 2020 for the reasons that you described. His disputed objection to the 2020 results, though he clearly lost, and President-elect Biden was entitled to all of the courtesies, rituals, and governance aspects that he gave to President-elect Trump today. That's what is distinctive about this. It was extended to President-elect Trump twice. When he had the choice, he did not extend it himself.
Let's talk about Trump's picks. He's selected Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz for Attorney General. As you know, Gaetz has been the subject of a House ethics investigation into alleged sexual misconduct and drug use, among other controversies. What do you make of that choice for him to lead the Justice Department, and what can we expect him to do as AG?
Well, it was shocking even to those within the Trump inner circle. And not only is Congressman Gaetz the current subject of a House Ethics Committee investigation, he was for a period of time the subject of a Department of Justice investigation launched when President Trump was in office. And we learned later, during the course of that Department of Justice investigation, Matt Gaetz preemptively requested a pardon from then President Trump. I don't think in the annals of American history we've ever had a circumstance where someone nominated to be the next Attorney General of the United States had, under previous circumstances, requested a preemptive pardon during an ongoing federal criminal investigation. But here we are. And it is quite clearly from President-elect Trump a sign to his most ardent supporters that he is willing to break a lot of China here in Washington to signal his willingness to be disruptive. Will the Senate Republicans, in particular, now in majority, welcome that disruptive turn toward Matt Gaetz? The early readings are not so fast.
Well, former Democratic Congresswoman and Army Reservist Tulsi Gabbard is Trump's pick for Director of National Intelligence. She left the Democratic Party, campaigned for Trump. What do we know about how she would approach that role?
She also ran for president as a Democrat in 2020 and criticized in one debate then candidate Kamala Harris from the left. It was interesting. They had a lot of interactions in that one memorable debate before both of their candidacies for the Democratic nomination in 2020 ran to ground. Tulsi Gabbard also, in 2017, met with the Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad, who was visibly being supported at that time by Russia and Iran. Those kinds of things will very much get the attention of senators considering her confirmation to be the Director of National Intelligence. But she is a Trump loyalist. She is one of those in the Trump inner circle, or the Trump orbit, rather, who is very much opposed to U.S. interaction, U.S. use of military force in conflicts or to resolve conflicts. She wants America to stay at home and husband its defense resources, use them only when necessary. And she's also taken a dim view of ongoing support to help the Ukrainians repel the Russian invasion. All of this will be subject to her confirmation hearings. She also falls into the category of surprising picks, ones that will probably face some manner of tough sledding in the confirmation process.
But Major, if the Senate does away with sort of the traditional confirmation hearings and Trump gets what he wants in terms of recess appointments, could both Gaetz and Gabbard eke by without support from the Senate?
The Senate would have to agree to recess and then sit idly by and let then President Trump, because he would have assumed the office by this time, use recess appointments. That would be an institutional handing over of power without any precedent in American history, not in the Senate, not in any Congress ever constructed, and it would be a laying down, essentially, by Senate Republicans to any and all requests of President Trump, including those that flow entirely through their constitutional powers of advise and consent. It is theoretically possible. I can't imagine it happening, but I've been surprised before in this era.
You know, Major, a lot of Trump's picks don't have experience leading a government agency. Pete Hegseth, for example, defense secretary, he spent the last decade as a television personality. But Trump markets himself as an outsider. He markets that he'll bring in outsiders. Is this what his base voted for? In part, because his base has basically come to the conclusion that most of the things that land comfortably in the nation's capital are basically wrong and injurious to either their interests or America's interests broadly. They may or may not be right about that, but that they believe it is a fact. But the thing you mentioned is most important. Pete Hegseth was on television a long time, on a network that Trump watches a lot. And all of his potential picks are being viewed based on their credibility, their qualifications, but most, if not, well, maybe not most importantly in every case, but in many cases, the decisive factor is how good and how trained are you on television? Trump prizes that nearly above everything else, right alongside loyalty. So television experience, for good or ill for this country, is an important marker of potentiality in the Trump transition. How well can they communicate his message? Major Garrett, thank you. Senate Republicans elected South Dakota's John Thune to replace Mitch McConnell as the new majority leader. Thune was elected to the Senate in 2004. He's been the Republican whip, which is the #2 position in GOP Senate leadership, since 2019. Thune was elected Wednesday by secret ballot, and he spoke following the vote. He said the Republican Party is united.
We have a mandate from the American people, a mandate not only to clean up the mess left by the Biden-Harris-Schumer agenda, but also to deliver on President Trump's priorities. CBS News congressional correspondent Nicole Killian joins me now from Capitol Hill. Nicole, how did today's vote go down, and what does it say that members rejected some of the more right-wing Trump-aligned options?
Well, I think what it says is that they're going with the option that they feel is best suited to lead the Senate. And the reality is that Senator John Thune is someone who was Leader McConnell's deputy, someone who has been in leadership for some time now. So he has kind of those deep ties with rank and file members, has forged relationships, and that's really what he kind of leaned heavily into, in addition to also trying to tout, to the extent possible, ways in which he would try to advance the Trump agenda. So putting that all together is kind of why John Thune, who is currently the minority whip, rose to the top. You know, as far as Rick Scott, even though, yes, he had the support of allies from the president-elect, it's notable that the president-elect did not make an endorsement in this race. So ultimately, that seemed not to carry as much weight with members. And also important to note that this was all done by secret ballot, so members could really vote their conscience on this one.
What will Thune be tasked with?
Well, obviously, as he made clear in his press conference earlier today, he will be tasked with implementing the president-elect's agenda. And, you know, Senate Republicans, House Republicans are trying to operate in lockstep with the president-elect. In fact, they strategized with him here on Capitol Hill over the summer. So while the president-elect was here earlier today meeting with House Republicans, it's not the first time that he has powwowed with lawmakers. And at the time of that summer meeting, much of that was on strategizing for this 100-day agenda that Republicans in both chambers hope to implement, whether that is extending the Trump tax cuts, focusing on energy policy and energy independence, educational choice. Those are key priorities and prongs of the Republican agenda, in addition to border security. So that is something where both House Republicans and Senate Republicans hope to work off of in terms of, you know, priorities that they want to try to implement on day one.
CBS News has projected Republicans will keep control of the House. The current Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, will be the House Republicans' nominee for the position once again. What can we expect from him now that he's had a little over a year of experience in the role? And does having a Republican majority in the Senate impact anything for him as well?
Well, I think in terms of Speaker Mike Johnson, you know, and keep in mind that, you know, the formal process of electing him as Speaker will take place in earnest early next year in terms of, you know, what we witnessed in past Speaker races where you have that voice vote on the House floor. You know, this was kind of more procedural in terms of laying that groundwork to make him the nominee for that post. But certainly, you know, he has tried to toe the line between various factions of his party. He spent a lot of time on the campaign trail, not just with the president-elect, but also campaigning on the part of members. So many of them feel that he does deserve another chance to continue to hold the gavel, especially given that Republicans have now retained the majority. I would note that we are also hearing from House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who, you know, was holding out hope and acknowledged there were a lot of too close to call races out there, but has since now issued a statement in light of that call that House Republicans have won the majority, saying that in the new Congress, House Democrats will continue to seek bipartisan common ground on any issue whenever and wherever possible to make life better for the American people while pushing back against the right extremism whenever necessary. So that kind of gives you a sense of what the Democrats' posture is going forward, understanding that where there are those opportunities to work with Republicans, they're willing to do so. But at the same time, they also see themselves as a check on the Trump agenda. And also their task going forward is certainly to kind of do some soul searching. And we know even starting tomorrow, they're going to start having these listening sessions with members, House Democratic leaders, that is, to try to understand, you know, what went wrong for them this election cycle and how they can course correct going forward.
Nicole Killian, thank you. Pennsylvania will recount votes in its Senate race between incumbent Democrat Bob Casey and Republican David McCormick. The recount is mandatory under state law when races are within a 0.5% vote margin. With 99% of the vote counted, McCormick leads Casey by 0.4%. That's fewer than 28,000 votes. The results of the recount will not be published until November 27th. CBS News characterizes the race as lean Republican. Casey has not conceded the race, but McCormick was invited to Capitol Hill this week for Senate orientation. The Department of Justice has charged a man with leaking Israel's potential plans for a retaliatory strike against Iran. The suspect worked in some capacity with the CIA. CBS News' Ellie Watson is following the latest from the Pentagon.
Federal prosecutors have charged a man named Asif Rahman for violating the Espionage Act and sharing classified information that appeared to show Israeli war plans. Court documents say that Rahman was an employee of the government, had top secret level security clearance related to his job, and was sharing classified information from places outside of the United States, including from Cambodia. The court filings don't explicitly say what documents Rahman shared, but sources tell CBS News that he shared the two documents that appeared on Telegram earlier this year in October, right around the time that Israel was prepping for retaliation against Iran for an earlier ballistic missile attack. Rahman was indicted last week in the Eastern District Court of Virginia, was arrested earlier this week in Cambodia, and is expected to make an initial court appearance in Guam tomorrow. CBS News, the Pentagon.
The inflation rate increased slightly in October. What the latest figures mean for your wallet, the Fed's ongoing fight against inflation, and the health of the economy ahead of a new White House administration. Plus, some of President-elect Donald Trump's picks for his cabinet are drawing scrutiny, including his pick for Defense Secretary. Who is Peter Hegseth, and how could he potentially shape the Pentagon? You're watching The Daily Report.
Come on, Julia. Oh, no. I will if you will. You go, gal. That's right.
Let me see if you can find me.
I want to make sure that my voice is heard, but also that I lift up other voices.
You can't write a better script.
Yeah, boy. It's gonna be a ride.
We'll see you 7 o'clock sharp.
How fast do you think you were going?
195 miles an hour.
This is incredible.
How close did you actually come to being killed?
Not close.
Is this brain surgery without a knife?
It is.
What risk do these children pose to Russia?
I'm not sure the world is prepared for this change.
Definitely not.
Who's the best coach in college football today?
Let me see a mirror.
It's time for the CBS News original, 60 Minutes. Sundays on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
Go to the ends of the earth.
Right now.
We got something crazy.
And reach for the stars.
Here we are.
Time.
Yes, it's my comeback.
Hey, this is pretty fun.
But wait, there's more.
Experience thought-provoking.
I'm open to the idea of being a human being.
Innovative and truly original reporting.
Look through a telescope and go, wow.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
I'm a voracious consumer of information and constantly curious. I want to know the basic facts of every issue and to press into the heart of the matter. Information is the currency of democracy, and that's what we bring to the table every Sunday.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you.
Big news coming out of the NFL. A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
With highlights.
What a finish at the final round of play.
And in-depth analysis.
Can they three-peat? Tony Romo joins the conversation.
What can you say about this game?
When you need your sports in a snap,
we're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
Find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
At this moment, terrorists could be plotting another attack.
9/11 triggered a counter-terrorist system that included a secret database.
This person needs a closer look.
A growing list of nearly 2 million people, including some Americans who say they're innocent.
For 1 hour flight, I have to spend 6 hours to go and come back.
CBS Reports explores the system, the people responsible for it, and those pushing for change.
I'm not fighting against them. I'm fighting for them to do the right thing.
The Watch List, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
A CBS News investigation. People looking for love, finding their life savings gone.
This could happen to anybody.
And sometimes losing their lives. Anything for love. Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Labor Department data released Wednesday showed inflation ticked back up in October, which is what economists were expecting. The Consumer Price Index is up 0.2% from September. That's a 2.6% year-over-year increase from last October, and the first month-to-month increase since March. Something else that's increasing, the value of cryptocurrencies, particularly Bitcoin and the meme currency Dogecoin. After subtle increases throughout the year, both spiked after the election, seemingly captivating crypto investors. CBS News Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady joins us now to tell us what this all means for consumers. So, Kelly, let's start with the CPI data. What do the numbers mean for what we can afford, what we can borrow, and what does it mean for the Fed's decision on whether to raise rates again?
So basically, this means that your prices that you see, they are increasing at a little faster rate than they were before. Now, that's not good news, right? We want to see that number come down. And specifically in the CPI, we saw this with shelter. Now, that's not good news either, right? Because that's always the biggest part of our budget, our rent, our mortgage payments, all of that. Good news, grocery prices have started to come down a little bit, but they are still worse off than we saw before the pandemic.
And what does the Fed want to see? What kind of rate?
Fed wants to see 2%. Okay. That's the target. And so the fact that we came up at 2.6% versus 2.4, that could give them pause when they think about continuing to cut rates. This is just one data point, though. We're still going to get more inflation, more jobs report numbers before that December meeting.
What do you mean it could give them pause?
It could make them say, you know what, maybe we don't cut rates. Maybe we actually pause and we just leave them where they are until we get more economic data.
Okay. So let's talk about cryptocurrency. Bitcoin reached record highs on Tuesday. Other cryptos like Dogecoin are also seeing nominal boosts. Is this something investors should be paying attention to?
Absolutely, especially when it comes to Bitcoin. So President-elect Trump has styled himself as the pro-crypto president. That's why Bitcoin is up. Dogecoin, that's a little bit more of a meme currency, the Shiba Inu coin that Elon Musk has championed. But really, the best advice that I have gotten from investors in this space is if you are new to it, invest what you're willing to lose, because this is what we call a speculative asset class. People just sort of traded of where do we think we're going with this?
Okay. That's probably good investing advice to begin with.
Fair enough.
Yeah, just invest what you can lose. But what did the CPI data and recent crypto spikes say about the economy that President-elect Trump is inheriting?
So the CPI spike says that, look, you're inheriting a bumpy road on this fight against inflation. And of course, some of the policies that he has suggested, like tariffs, could actually make that inflation fight worse. Now, he has also said that they could be a negotiating tactic. So the verdict is out there. The crypto piece of it, it just shows that people, they want to make money, they want to invest. And, we'll see what happens there.
Kelly O'Grady, thank you so much.
Of course.
The trial over Idaho's near-total abortion ban continued Wednesday in Boise. The 4 women involved in the case are asking a judge to clarify and expand exceptions to women who need medical abortions in order to save their lives. CBS News correspondent Nicole Valdez has the latest for us. Nicole?
Well, this case is all about what the medical exception in Idaho's abortion ban does and does not include. Today, we heard from one Idaho OBGYN who says she's turned patients away in fear she could be prosecuted and face prison time if she administers an abortion, even if her patients are suffering from serious and dangerous pregnancy complications. She is one of 6 women asking the state to include the health of expectant mothers and fatal fetal diagnosis to fall under the state's medical exception. Right now, Idaho's exception only allows abortions when that expectant mother could die as a result of that pregnancy. Now, the Idaho Attorney General's office argues adding exceptions to the law could allow unnecessary abortions. They feel Idaho legislators, not a judge, should determine the language in the law. They say, as it's written, it does protect mothers and the unborn child. Now, there's no jury in this case. This bench trial leaves the decision up to a judge. Plaintiffs don't expect one for several weeks, if not months. Nicole Valdez, CBS News, Boise, Idaho.
Donald Trump is the first GOP president in 2 decades to win the popular vote in an election. The shift to red has Democrats wondering how do they bounce back and recover. Massachusetts Congressman Seth Moulton, who's caused some fireworks in the Democratic Party for his take, joins me next for his assessment on where the party went wrong in his belief and what happens next. You're watching The Daily Report.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
It was genocide, a deliberate effort by the United States government to eliminate the food source that was relied upon by Native American tribes.
American bison were slaughtered and Native Americans displaced.
And that's how tribes were subjugated to reservations and our lands were taken.
But now, through conservation efforts at Yellowstone,
Buffalo provided everything that we needed. Now they need help.
a herd grows.
We need to step up and help them.
And a culture is reborn.
When the buffalo return and come back, that's when our tribe will begin to heal.
Yellowstone Bison Revival, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Oh, wow. Look at this.
Let 60 Minutes take you on a private tour of the National Archives.
So there may be treasures like this buried in boxes.
Historical secrets from America's past.
So this is original from 1778?
This case.
It's like a screenplay, something straight out of Hollywood.
But it's not fiction. It's 48 hours.
Human remains found this week.
4 families shattered.
There's no physical evidence.
The mystery would haunt investigators for years.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
Like a John Grisham novel.
A gripping true crime original. 48 Hours, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
When you wake up in the morning, we want to be your go-to team.
On our places, bright shiny faces.
Nate has one of the quickest minds I've ever seen.
Put me in the game, coach.
Tony has a way of making people feel comfortable.
The best interviews feel like it's just a conversation with a neighbor.
Hey.
Gail has this unbelievable knack to ask a question that is the question that you're asking at home.
I've been told I could talk to a tree, and that's pretty much true.
I don't go to work in the morning. I go for coffee with my 2 good friends, and we talk about the world.
Your morning routine just got better. CBS Mornings, weekdays at 7.
I'll see you in the morning.
Listening to how someone explains themselves is so key to understanding their perspective.
The grief of losing a child is immense. You can't breathe.
After decades of the war on drugs, things have only gotten worse.
Every shipment of fentanyl is a ticking time bomb.
50 times more powerful than heroin.
CBS Reports goes deep into Mexico.
What is your role in the Sinaloa cartel?
To find out why the cartels keep getting stronger and wealthier.
This is a war, but we're not fighting it. Our citizens are dying.
Funding Cartels, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Welcome back to the Daily Report. I'm Lindsay Reiser. Here are some additions to our top stories. A D.C. District Court judge has ruled that Facebook parent company Meta must face an antitrust lawsuit from the Federal Trade Commission. The FTC is accusing Meta of stifling social media competition by acquiring Instagram and WhatsApp. In a statement, Meta said it is confident a trial will show the acquisitions have been good for competition and consumers. Tesla is issuing its 6th recall of its Cybertrucks this year. On Wednesday, the company recalled 2,400 trucks due to a faulty part that could lead to a loss of power when the driver accelerates. Tesla says it's aware of 5 warranty claims tied to the problem, but has not received reports of crashes or injuries. President Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping will meet on Saturday, possibly their last interaction of Biden's presidency. The two will talk on the sidelines of an economic forum in Peru. Biden and Xi are expected to discuss heightened tensions over issues including the South China Sea and fentanyl. 1 week after President-elect Donald Trump won back the White House, some Democrats are already linking arms to resist his incoming administration. 2 Democratic governors, Illinois' J.B. Pritzker and Colorado's Jared Polis, have launched an alliance called Governors Safeguarding Democracy. The goal is to create a so-called toolbox with policies and methods for states to respond to federal actions taken by Trump during his second term. Meanwhile, congressional Democratic leaders say they plan to hold private meetings with rank-and-file members over the next 3 weeks to discuss what they believe went wrong with the election and how to move forward. In a story with the New York Times last week, Massachusetts Democratic Congressman Seth Moulton said he believes, quote, Democrats spend way too much time trying not to offend anyone rather than being brutally honest about the challenges many Americans face. He went on to say, quote, I have 2 little girls. I don't want them getting run over on a playing field by a male or formerly male athlete. But as a Democrat, I'm supposed to be afraid to say that. Well, Massachusetts Democratic Congressman Seth Moulton joins me now. Congressman, thanks for being here.
Good to see you.
You've been getting flack for those comments, but you've been doubling down, saying the Democratic Party is out of touch. Do you accept the GOP's premise that Vice President Kamala Harris stood for they/them and Trump stands for everyone else?
And the problem was that she didn't even respond to those attacks, and we need to answer those attacks. We need to have a better plan for trans people and for all the other issues that Americans care about. Whether we like it or not, we have to accept that we have to be able to fight back against the Republican attacks. And you know what? The backlash I've received for even raising the issue proves my point, that we have trouble as a party just simply having discussions about these complicated issues. And we need to. We need to, whether we want to or not, because they were influential in the election, and the election proved that Democrats are just out of touch with the majority of Americans.
How would you have advised her campaign to counter those attacks, those ads?
Well, first of all, say something. I mean, don't just ignore the attack. Have a response. I think that she should have explicitly said that she wouldn't support gender transition surgery for prisoners. That would have been, I think, that would have diffused a lot of the attacks. And she could have also added, by the way, that the Biden administration was continuing a policy started by the Trump administration when it came to that particular procedure. So there are absolutely ways to answer this charge. I don't know why she was just silent.
According to our CBS News Confirmed team, the CDC estimates about 3% of high school students identify as transgender. While there's no national data on transgender students in high school level sports, at a college level, an LGBTQ advocacy group, Athlete Ally, estimates there are fewer than 40 NCAA athletes known to be transgender out of the more than 500,000. Yet Republicans spent $215 million on anti-trans political ads this election cycle, according to Ad Impact. Are Republicans better at hijacking messaging? What do Democrats need to do to land theirs?
We need to have a policy. We need to have a rational policy that answers the Republican attacks and presents a better way forward. And it's not just on trans issues. It's on the border. How is it that Republicans are more trusted on the border when Trump just wants to break up families and communities all across America, ruining our economy in the process by deporting millions of people? How is it that Trump is more trusted on the economy when he wants to raise tariffs so high that it will increase inflation, it will raise prices for everyday consumers, and in the meantime, he's just going to cut taxes for his billionaire friends? It's crazy that the Republican Party is actually more trusted on a variety of issues by the American people when the Democratic Party actually has better policies. In some cases, we just need to have a policy at all. And that's why I've been encouraged by a conversation I've been having in recent days with folks on the Hill, with people back in the district, including a lot of LGBTQ advocates, some of whom, by the way, agree with the exact concern that I raised, others who think that we need to just have a discussion about this, and they want to find a good way forward. It's the refusal of the extremists in our party to even have a discussion about these things. Those who have just called me to resign because I raised the issue, that's the real problem here.
Should it be more important to Democrats moving forward, trying to appeal to as many people as possible to win seats and legislate, or championing progressive ideals? Do you think the party can do both? Should the party try and do both?
Absolutely. I mean, here's the reality. We can't protect people who need protection if we don't have any levers of power in Washington. Because make no mistake, Trump and the Republicans, with their hateful extremist policies, they are going to come after trans people and other minorities all across America. They've been very explicit about that. We need to be in a position to uphold American values, to uphold civil rights, to simply protect women's rights when it comes to reproductive freedom, for example. But we can't do that if we don't win elections. And we got wiped out last Tuesday.
So I'm hearing you say, Congressman, that you at least think that the Democratic Party should not be afraid to have some of those difficult conversations. Before we let you go, as a Marine Corps veteran, I want to ask you for your reaction to Donald Trump's announcement that he plans to nominate Fox News anchor Pete Hegseth as Defense Secretary.
Pete Hegseth has made a career of politicizing the military. That's not what the military needs, and it's fundamentally against American values. The military should be professionals who are separated from the political process. So I'm very concerned about this nomination. Pete Hegseth cares about veterans, but he doesn't have the experience, the background, or really the mindset to be an effective Secretary of Defense.
What does that mean, Congressman, for the United States as a global power, really on the world stage, and also just its ability to defend itself?
Well, our credibility is on the line. And it's not just credibility when we talk to our adversaries or our allies, it's credibility when it comes to our deterrence. You know, if the world thinks that autocrats like Vladimir Putin can get away with wars of aggression, then we could see a major war starting in the Pacific over Taiwan. Donald Trump has already pledged not to stop. So the implications here are very serious. If we don't have a strong, united national security policy with a credible team behind it, then our adversaries will walk all over us. And that should concern every American. We don't need more wars. We need credible deterrence. And that means credible leaders at the Department of Defense.
Congressman Seth Moulton, thank you for your time. Special counsel Jack Smith filed a motion Wednesday night to pause the appeal dismissal of Donald Trump's classified documents case in Florida. Smith, who led 2 federal prosecutions of Trump, will resign before the president-elect takes office. Ahead of his resignation, Smith is expected to submit a report to the Justice Department summarizing his findings in the election interference case, as well as the case centered on how Trump handled sensitive material. A Florida judge previously dismissed the documents case. Conservative constitutional lawyer and former Solicitor General Theodore Olson died Wednesday at the age of 84. In 2000, Olson represented then presidential candidate George W. Bush in the landmark Supreme Court case Bush v. Gore. He ultimately helped secure a recount in Florida, which led to Bush's victory. Olson then served as Bush's Solicitor General. Despite being a conservative, Olson said his greatest legal legacy was when he successfully challenged California's ban on same-sex marriage. Well, several Republican senators are reacting to President-elect Donald Trump's pick for Secretary of Defense. Fox News host Pete Hegseth. Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin told CBS News, quote, "I'd have to think about it. I don't know much about his background." Senator Mike Rounds of South Dakota said, quote, "I want to look at his bio and I want to find out more about him as well." And Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska said, quote, "Wow, I'm just surprised. The names that I've heard for Secretary of Defense have not included him." Hegseth is a veteran Army National Guard officer who served in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Guantanamo Bay. The 44-year-old has expressed opposition to women serving in combat roles in the military. He has also advocated for the firing of so-called woke military leaders who support diversity and inclusion programs. For more on this, I want to bring in CBS News national security contributor Sam Vinograd. She's also the former Assistant Secretary for Counterterrorism at the Department of Homeland Security. Sam, thanks for being here. What are some of your thoughts on Hegseth's nomination?
Well, Lindsay, I've seen 4 secretaries of defense, both Republican and Democrat, up close and personal during my time in bipartisan administrations. I think it's really important to remember the key skill sets that enable a Secretary of Defense to perform his or her job effectively. The first is strong management expertise. The Department of Defense has almost 3 million individuals, a budget last year of $841 billion, 11 combatant commands, 6 branches. And the modernization of the force alone is a full-time job. So understanding how to manage a large, evolving, complex organization is a critical factor to enable a Secretary of Defense for success. I am concerned that Pete Hegseth has none of this experience. At the same time, there's an important external-facing role. The Secretary of Defense must be taken seriously on the world stage, particularly in an era of strategic competition, primarily with Russia and China. Having an individual in that role that is viewed to speak on behalf of the president, which I do think Mr. Hegseth would be viewed in that way, but is taken seriously as a credible, experienced interlocutor is key. Otherwise, our adversaries will feel enabled to, frankly, make progress and feel like they can walk all over us. So I'm concerned by the nomination. Mr. Hegseth does have noteworthy combat experience. He has a close relationship with Mr. Trump, but those are not enablers for success in this role, Lindsay.
Hegseth has first to be confirmed by Congress before becoming Secretary of Defense. But what would this mean for women, LGBTQ members, and other minority members of the military?
Well, today, women represent, I believe, about 16% of our armed forces. And Mr. Hegseth has said that he does not believe that women should serve in combat roles. So I do believe that if confirmed, his confirmation in his role as Secretary of Defense would have a chilling effect on both the recruitment and retention of women in our armed forces. At the same time, currently, transgender individuals are authorized to serve in our armed forces based on their identified gender. If Mr. Hegseth is confirmed, it is likely that he would look to topple that policy. which would mean that transgender individuals currently in the military would likely feel inclined to leave. And hiring individuals that are transgender, that are highly skilled, would be unlikely based upon a potential reversal of that policy. So we would ultimately have a less diverse, less fulsome, and perhaps less capable armed services at a time when we need to put all of our best assets on the field.
Help us understand the diversity aspect. We know in 2021, current Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin began requiring all members of the military to complete conduct training in an attempt to combat right-wing extremism in the ranks. He's been a strong advocate to strengthen diversity. We know that his predecessor, Mark Esper, who sometimes clashed with Trump during his first administration, took steps to improve diversity and inclusion. If those legacies are undone, what would that mean for the armed forces?
Well, again, we need armed forces that are the most capable today, tomorrow, and 20 years from now, based upon the strategic threats that are facing us. To achieve that capability, we need the most talented individuals in this country, and we need recruitment and retention policies that encourage the best folks to stay in our armed forces. If DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion policies are reversed, we could lose many of those very talented individuals, and we just don't have the time or the bandwidth right now to take that kind of risk, Lindsay. So I'm concerned that the potential reversal in diversity, equity, inclusion policies that currently govern our armed forces could have a real impact on the field, both the physical battlefield and all the other ways that our armed forces protect us at a time when our national security is under real attack.
Sam Vinograd, thank you.
Thanks.
We have an update to Tuesday's factory explosion in Louisville, Kentucky. Authorities say at least 2 people were killed and 10 injured in the blast. The explosion caused a partial collapse of the building and damaged several nearby homes and businesses. The casualties were employees of Givaudan Sense Color, a company that produces food and drink colorings. Employees told officials it was a normal day inside the plant before the explosion. The cause is still under investigation. New Jersey declared a drought warning Wednesday as the state continues to experience dry weather conditions and wildfires. Officials say the conditions have contributed to the recent spike of wildfires in the Garden State. The largest wildfire burning in New Jersey is the Jennings Creek fire on the border with New York. Fire officials said the wildfire, which has burned thousands of acres over the past week, is now 30% contained. President-elect Donald Trump has said America will become the energy capital of the world under his leadership, and that he'll cut Americans' home energy prices by 50%. We'll examine how his proposed policies could work. You're watching The Daily Report.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
That desired farm, it's a wonderful place to raise children, and it still is.
Promises broken.
Black Americans have been the target of racism and discrimination pretty much from the time they acquired ownership in the land.
Costing black farmers hundreds of billions in generational wealth.
They did everything to make sure we were run off that land.
But communities are uniting to continue the fight.
Collective ownership is powerful.
To keep their land and their dreams alive.
To watch my children play on land that we own means everything.
So land is power.
Most definitely.
40 Acres and a Mule, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Go to the ends of the earth. Reach for the stars.
Yeah, I just took off. That kind of thing.
Oh, that's pretty good. Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
I can see clearly now.
Clearly, CBS Mornings.
Weekdays on CBS.
Yeah!
Tony, coming?
No, I'm gonna stick around for an hour.
Hey!
CBS Mornings Plus with Adriana Diaz and Tony DeCopel, right after CBS Mornings.
It's just like mornings.
Plus fun.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day.
These 7 miles of tunnels were the secret storage site for fuel for the Navy's Pacific Fleet in planes.
So this is one of the tanks.
Oh my gosh.
What happened 20 stories below ground is a story for 60 Minutes.
This thing that was a lifeline for the fleet is a threat.
That's right.
I'm Erin Moriarty of 48 Hours, and of all the cases I've covered, this is the one that troubles me most. Listen to Murder in the Orange Grove, the troubled case against Crosley Green, wherever you get your podcasts.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
AI is among the most world-changing technologies ever.
Curing diseases, scientific breakthroughs, making lives better.
They can help us with medical discoveries, scientific discoveries, doing better agriculture, having cures for things like Alzheimer's.
It's also going to really transform the way we work.
The uplifting potential of artificial intelligence is limitless.
It gives you a friend, somebody to chat with 24/7 that is non-judgmental. He makes me feel loved and desired.
And so are its downfalls.
The problem with all this AI is that it's unpredictable and uncontrollable. The choices we make now will have lasting effects for decades, maybe even centuries.
The ChatGPT revolution, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Sunday morning, a visit with the Wayans at Papa's house, plus affairs of state with the diplomat, and in praise of pigeons. Listen for the trumpet.
After being elected Senate Majority Leader Wednesday, Senator John Thune said the Republican Party would, quote, restore American energy dominance, which he said would help lower fuel costs. The promise falls in line with several remarks President-elect Donald Trump made about U.S. energy production while on the campaign trail.
I will approve new drilling, new pipelines, new refineries, new power plants, new reactors, and we will slash the red tape. We're going to become the energy capital of the world. I will terminate the Green New Scam, and we'll cut your energy prices in half, 50%, within 1 year from January 20th.
For more on how a second Trump presidency could affect the energy sector, Patrick DeHaan joins us now. He's the head of petroleum analysis for Gas Buddy, a website that tracks fuel prices. Patrick, thank you for being here. Oh, can we hear you?
Hopefully you can now.
Okay, there we go. Is it possible for Trump to keep that campaign promise of cutting energy costs in half in a year? What policies has he floated to do that?
Well, on the oil side, it would be very difficult. And already the U.S. is the world's largest oil producer and natural gas producer. Now, on natural gas side, it might be a bit easier simply because President Biden had caused exports of new terminals for liquefied natural gas to be banned. President Trump could rescind that, and then we could start to see projects flowing. On oil, though, it's going to be a little trickier because there is no spare capacity that could suddenly turn on overnight in the United States to flood the market and drive oil prices down. Oil policy would have to shift. In that clip, President Trump had mentioned easing restrictions, opening new areas to drilling, but that could take years to have any potential impact, and it could be offset by oil-producing countries, members of OPEC, that could scale back production if oil prices drop too low.
Yeah, what would be the impact on the global market if that were to happen?
Well, if the U.S. were to produce more, OPEC would likely scale back, at least temporarily. And the big wild card here is the U.S. is already producing 13.5 million barrels a day. But in the last year, we've only seen an increase of a few 100,000 barrels a day. We're kind of running out of steam, and it's not going to be easy at $68 a barrel, today's WTI price, for oil companies to go back and spend millions or billions of dollars drilling and looking for new sources of crude oil. So as President Trump or President-elect Trump may ease restrictions, that also does not mandate companies drill and increase oil production here in the United States.
This week, the national average price of gas fell to the lowest level since May of 2021. Did the election play a role in that, and can we expect the cost to continue falling?
The election didn't play a role in the gas price falling to its low since 2021. We've been on this very long road toward recovery. Things like the pandemic had caused price abnormalities, prices bottomed out during COVID, and then shot right back up as Americans started to get back outside. That was exacerbated by Russia's war in Ukraine. And really, it's taken over 2 years for markets to normalize again. And that's why gas prices are finally starting to get closer to what many Americans feel is normal, is not because of the election, not because of anything President Biden did either, but more so the global market is finally coming back into balance.
So I'm getting the sense that his promise of lowering energy costs by 50% in the first year is not really attainable. You've been quoted prior to the election as sounding the alarm on that. And you had mentioned that it could take years if there are actions taken to increase production. But How soon could the average U.S. consumer actually see a difference in their energy costs?
Well, it probably would take time. Now, President Trump has even talked about doing things like dismantling or easing regulation from departments like the EPA. That could improve gasoline prices slightly because there are rules and regulations on the type of gasoline. Every American knows we have different blends in the summer and winter. Easing those may help temporarily ease prices, but only in the summer, really. But even that is going to be very small in the grand picture of what we're paying at the pump. I really don't foresee a circumstance where we're going to see the national average falling back on a long-term basis to some of those lower prices that we saw from 2015 to 2018.
Patrick DeHaan, thank you so much for joining the Daily Report. Please come back.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Are you looking for some good reads before 2024 ends? Amazon's got you covered. From a mystery novel to a retelling of a classic, the online retailer's editors reveal their top picks that will have you booking it to your nearest library. You're watching the Daily Report.
Go to the ends of the earth.
Right now.
We got something crazy.
And reach for the stars.
Here we are. Time.
Yes, it's my comeback.
Hey, this is pretty fun.
But wait, there's more.
Experience thought-provoking,
Welcome to the idea of being a human being.
innovative, and truly original reporting.
Look through a telescope and go, wow.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
At this moment, terrorists could be plotting another attack.
9/11 triggered a counter-terrorist system that included a secret database.
This person needs a closer look.
A growing list of nearly 2 million people, including some Americans who say they're innocent.
For 1 hour flight, I have to spend 6 hours to go and come back.
CBS Reports explores the system, the people responsible for it, and those pushing for change.
I'm not fighting against them. I'm fighting for them to do the right thing.
The Watch List, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Don't miss true crime anytime you want, anywhere you go. With the 48 Hours podcast. Real crimes, real lives, real justice.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
Listen to 48 Hours on Apple Podcasts.
An original documentary from CBS Reports.
Imagine yourself in Manhattan with no police, no army, no mayor.
The people of Haiti stare down poverty, corruption, natural disasters, and violence.
90% of the guns that are used by gangs in Haiti are American guns.
But with an unbreakable spirit and eternal optimism.
There are days where I cry, but we can't be discouraged. We still believe in Haiti.
They're still able to look ahead with hope.
Haiti is on the brink of transformation, a radical shift. Nations are coming together and saying things must change.
Fighting for Haiti, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Hey there, welcome to The Uplift.
I thought she was a groom, and I stepped back and I went, oh, you're the queen. She's gonna be with me every instant that I'm alive.
I just wanted to see if you'd go to Disneyland with me today.
I look over at him and he's smiling.
I'm gonna remember that the rest of my life.
They told us when he was going to be born, he was only going to live for 30 minutes. It's really a miracle that he's with us today.
The Uplift, stream now on the free CBS News app.
When you wake up in the morning, we want to be your go-to team.
On our places, bright shiny faces.
I don't go to work in the morning. I go for coffee with my 2 good friends, and we talk about the world.
Your morning routine just got better. CBS Mornings.
A CBS News investigation. People looking for love, finding their life savings gone.
This could happen to anybody.
And sometimes losing their lives. Anything for love. Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
The National Hurricane Center says a system brewing in the Caribbean will likely strengthen into a tropical storm. It comes as the northeastern U.S. continues to battle multiple wildfires. Here's Richard Knapp from our partners at the Weather Channel.
We're going to have a dangerous tropical storm and maybe even hurricane over the western Caribbean for the next many days. The waters are warm, the wind shear is weak, and there is land nearby. That brings not just the danger of strong winds affecting populated areas of Central America, but also very heavy rains, especially concerned about a place like Honduras, where this weekend the system could hang out near the coast. The more it stays over water, the stronger it could be. But then eventually another frontal system crossing the continental U.S. into early next week could bring the system into the Gulf of Mexico, places like Florida. Need to watch this very closely. The first front is currently moving through the eastern U.S., and you think maybe this is going to bring some much-needed rain to the northeast, but it's going to be New Jersey northward that gets shut out from rain from this system, and more fire risk will be happening in the mid-Atlantic and the northeast, strong winds and dry weather. For more in-depth coverage, watch the Weather Channel on cable and now live on your favorite TV streaming device.
Richard Knapp, thank you. There's still time to add more books to your 2024 library, and to help you choose, Amazon has released its list of the best books of the year. The Boys of Riverside by Thomas Fuller topped the list, which is compiled by Amazon Books editors. It's a true story about the rise of an all-deaf underdog high school football team. The editors say the book has captured readers' hearts. The other books making the top 5 include The God of the Woods by Liz Moore, James by Percival Everett, The Women by Kristen Hanna, and The Small and the Mighty by Sharon McMahon. Here's a look at some of the stories we're covering in our next hour. President-elect Trump heads to the White House as he prepares to move back into the Oval Office. The latest from his meeting with President Biden and a slew of new picks for his upcoming administration. A U.S. government worker is charged with leaking classified information on Israel's military plans, the latest on the charges. And new consumer price data sheds light on the state of the U.S. economy. We'll break down the numbers and take a look at crypto's continuing surge. You're watching CBS News.
CBS Mornings Plus, clearly more news, more smart conversation.
More money-saving tips, more recipes.
More uplifting ways to get you on your way.
Plus, more sports, more weather.
Clearly, more CBS Mornings.
Plus,
Washington is the seat of power. National security, foreign policy, global economics, every story comes through Washington in some way. We bring some of the most powerful voices in America to the table. We don't just ask the questions, you have to go deeper. We try to understand what's at the heart of the issue we're talking about, to then come forward with solutions.
Face the Nation on CBS.
I have a dorky look to me. I don't look like a criminal at all.
60 Minutes has reported on fraudsters, criminals, and hoodlums. But what this minor league thief was able to do surprised even us.
These are Yogi Berra's World Series rings.
A sports story you'll have to see to believe.
Need more time with 48 Hours? Go deep behind every true crime episode with first-hand accounts from 48 Hours Investigations.
Were you at all prepared for what happened in this case?
Shock is the word that comes to mind.
Get inside the twists and turns and get in on the case. Listen to Postmortem from 48 Hours, now available wherever you get your podcasts.
I think we're very cute.
Yeah, I think we need to send out a Christmas card like this.
Yeah, let's do that.
Dollar Jill.
If you can't get into the market, it's okay. Renting is fine.
I wonder how Serena is feeling.
That's a really good question. no one's asked me that yet.
You're 70 years old? 70, yeah.
I'm 21.
We'll see you 7 o'clock sharp.
Sunday morning, the Music Man, T-Bone Burnett, plus Ted Danson, and Martha Stewart with Just the Recipe. Listen for the trumpet.
I report from a lot of war zones, but I don't really take the same risks.
He's one of the bravest war correspondents 60 Minutes has ever met. But it's his relationship with his mother that you will remember. Plus, the robots making marble masterpieces in Italy.
As a kid growing up in Chicago, there was one horror movie I was too scared to watch. It was called Candyman. But did you know that the movie Candyman was partly inspired by an actual murder? Listen to Candyman, the true story behind the bathroom mirror murder, wherever you get your podcasts.
The CBS News original 60 Minutes opens its archives.
Pretty loose for a Friday night. Yeah, no, I mean, it's not my first show.
With moments you haven't heard before.
It's almost more fun that way when you have something to prove.
Listen to 60 Minutes, A Second Look, wherever you get your podcasts. CBS News, 60 Minutes, Sunday on CBS.
Superstar approaching, superstar approaching.
Let's get your popcorn and get ready.
Come on, Julia.
Oh, no.
I will if you will.
You go, gal.
Yeah,
Welcome to the Daily Report on November 13, 2024. I'm Lindsay Reiser. Tonight, a major boost. Republicans gain full control of Congress, giving President-elect Trump another victory. This as Trump announces more picks for his administration after returning to Washington for the first time since winning the 2024 election.
The selection of Matt Gaetz